Edexcel English Language Paper 1, Section A, Question 3. This question is an AO2 question, and it will specifically ask you, how does the writer use language and structure to show something in a small section of the text? You must analyse both language and structure and comment on how the language and structure affects the reader. You will also be given a specific focus. For example, how does the writer use language and structure to show the narrator's building sense of panic? You need to make sure that the focus of the question informs your analysis, so try to use the language of the question in your response. You are aiming to write at least 3 concise points covering the writer's choice of vocabulary, sentence structure, language features such as metaphors, and the overall structure of the shortened extract. Firstly, you should read the section that you have been given and identify any interesting or relevant uses of language and structure in preparation for writing your paragraphs. So what should you include in your paragraphs? When analysing language, you should include features used by the writer. This is where you should use your subject terminology when you identify the correct part of speech or literary device. For example, metaphor, verb, or adjective. You must support each point with a quotation. Keep it short and embed it if you can. Rather than writing, "This can be proved by the quote yelled aloud," embed your quotation in your answer. For example, the writer uses the verb yelled along with the adverb aloud to exaggerate the narrator's feelings of panic, suggesting that he is not in control of his own voice. To embed quotations effectively, try to keep them short and precise. For example, the verb snatched effectively shows how much panic the writer feels, as it implies he is moving quickly and instinctively rather than thinking about his actions. You need to discuss the effect of the language because it's not good enough to just feature spot. If you see a simile, great, but you must write about the effects of that simile to get marks for it. When you're making AO2 comments, remember that you need to make your comments about the effect on the reader. What does the writer want them to think, feel, and imagine? How has the writer used language and structure to achieve this? If you can thoroughly explore the effects on the reader, this will help you maintain an analytical style, which you will need for the top band. One way to mess up this question is to make generalised comments such as, "to make the reader read on," or "to create an effect." These don't actually mean very much and won't get you any marks, so remember to explain the specific effect of words and phrases. The other way to make a mess of this question is to not analyse structure. If you only focus on the effects of language, you can only get 2 marks out of 6, regardless of how good your analysis is. So how do you analyse structure? Well, firstly, you need to be able to spot structural features and identify the effect that they have. Most readers can identify a list, a rule of 3, or repetition, but you also need to be thinking about sentence structures and the overall structure of the extract. Ideally, you would have a fairly balanced analysis of both language and structure, but it is vital that you have at least 1 paragraph analysing the effects of structure. It is recommended that you start with the structural analysis because students often run out of time or forget about it and only analyse language, and this would stop you getting higher marks in the exam. When writing about structure, it is essential that you use textual references to support your structural points, but don't write out lengthy quotations and waste your time. For example, copying the first 4 lines of the text to demonstrate the writer's use of multi-clausal sentences is not a good use of your time. Writing, within the first 4 lines of this section, the writer uses an extended multi-clausal sentence is a much more straightforward and simple way of doing it. However, it is vital that you analyse the effects of the structural features. For example, within the first 4 lines of this section, the writer uses an extended multi-clausal sentence to convey the speed of his actions, reflecting his panic. The structure suggests to the reader that the narrator can barely stop for breath as he tries to free himself from the creature's hand. The most common way students mess up their structural points is by making sweeping comments that don't really mean anything. For example, the writer uses lots of complex sentences, which creates tension. How? You need to develop an analysis of how the complex sentence adds to the tension. For example, the frequent use of complex sentences builds a sense of panic as it reflects the frenzied nature of the narrator's behaviour. It's as if he cannot focus his thoughts due to his fear. So, to recap, to be successful in this question, you must analyse both language and structure. You should aim to write about 3 points, and you should analyse vocabulary and sentence structures in your response. And that's all for question 3.